Hello everyone, Ted Clayton here. On this video, what I want to share is why, because of Heightism, I no longer want to work. Now, specifically, what I mean is no longer be a part of the workforce. That doesn't mean that I don't want to continue with some of my ventures, some other interests that I may have, or potentially go into business for myself. However, being a part of the workforce, I find at this point in time and moving forward to be quite difficult for me to do. Now, before I uh, share my reasons, and there's really only one primary reason, but two supporting ones. I do want to share why or when I start to be concerned with how I felt about this. I applied to a job about 2 months ago, and it was a job that I thought that I would be a perfect fit for. But the reaction that I had when I saw the listing and I read through everything told me everything and was pretty disturbing. So the position was as an audio editor. Now, I have a lot of experience, more than a decade being an audio editor and for some reputable companies. When I saw this, I said, this is great. This is right up my alley. And on top of it, um, what made me want to apply for it was what got my interest rather was that it was remote. So I said, this is the perfect job right here. And for me, I don't mind working with people. I love being around people, but I work best alone. There's no other way for me to put that. It's I can work faster alone. I do like to be around people to kind of recharge a little bit or get absorb some ideas, have conversations, get some feedback. But most of the time, I do like to work alone. So I thought this would be great. And also my lifestyle where I have, again, other interests and endeavors that I want to do. I can work at my own schedule. So that was that. But the thing was, and it was, again, the reaction that I had that came naturally out of nowhere. And I, I looked at the listing. It was on LinkedIn. And I don't want to imply anything towards the audio industry or LinkedIn, any kind of job sites or anything like that. There was no kind of anything suggestive or anything like that. This was something that came from within, right? Meaning a deduction that just naturally came. After I read everything, I looked at it because I saw the title, I saw the company. I said, "Oh wow, this is great. This is right up my alley. This will be great. I'm definitely a shoe-in for this." And again, I have the credentials and the experience. So, I'm gonna get a phone call like by the end of the day. So that's how confident I was. However, I went and looked through the requirements, the criteria, and I was a perfect fit. But for some reason, just out of nowhere, the next thought that just came to my mind, what just popped up out of nowhere, was height. I said, these people may not like me, or they may look at me in a certain way because of my height. Now, that could affect me in the interview process, or it could affect me when if and when I were to get hired. So, and the feeling was so uncomfortable. I had never had that before. Now, that doesn't mean because of that I didn't send my application, because of course there's going to be some people that just heard what I said and they're going to say, well, that's a defeatist attitude. You shouldn't have that. Well, I disagree. I feel that the best thing when someone has doubts or any kind of or these ideas just pop up, I think it's good to analyze them. But still, if on paper you're a good fit, put your best foot forward. So, of course, that's what I did. Now, I didn't hear back from them. It's been 2 months. It's probably, that situation is probably behind me now. That's probably a done deal. Not to say that they probably won't reach out to me in the near future. But after about a month, at most 2 months, I assumed that they found someone else. Um, and what was I going with this? I, I kind of lost. Again, it's kind of late right now. It's 10 o'clock. I didn't really want to do a video, but I had I, I I had this on my mind to do, and the ideas started coming to me. I wrote them down, and I said it's gonna be late. I had a long day. I've been up since 5, 6 in the morning, uh, and I said the ideas are coming to me. I just got to put this out there and just get it off my chest. So I think what I was trying to say was I would still put my best foot forward. Where on paper I have I'm a good fit and I meet the criteria. Probably uh, I'm probably more than enough for this position. But even though that will come to my mind, I'll still send the resume out. And again, that's not to say that it couldn't have any play any factor into it because they didn't see me yet. They probably found someone else, and that's completely fine. And I do have a little bit of a. I just want to put another footnote, and I don't want to get on a tangent, but another thing that is concerning me now is this. I want to say this in a very politically correct way because I want this, even though I'm speaking freely on YouTube, on social media, this is my self expression. I want to treat this as if this got into the hands of an employer or of a hiring manager, an agency, etc. The issue of identity right now is really concerning for me because I'm thinking to myself, what if there's a situation where there's my resume, and again, it's not like I'm putting my height. Again, we're talking about height. It's not like I put my height, although maybe I should put that in my resume. Right? There's my resume. A hiring manager is looking at my resume, and I'll get to my points in a moment. Um, there's my resume, and then there's someone else's. But let's say, for all intents and purposes, it's a woman, and we have the same criteria. We have the same kind of experience, and we're basically both a match, right? Meaning the hiring manager is considering both of us. Our resumes stand out that much. If a hiring manager were to, and this is my opinion, if a hiring manager were to hire a woman just because, and they're looking at two resumes that are basically just as good, and they hire this person just strictly because of the fact that they're a woman, that to me comes across as one, a bias, which is unfair, and two, it also comes across as looking at women as inferior, as it's some kind of disability or something, or they need some kind of support, some kind of handicap. So it's a. I don't really want to get into that conversation right now, but that's a concern that I do have. So that could always be a factor. So I just want to put that out there also as well. But okay, again, all that to say that it was my main concern with this whole height thing, with heightism and the workforce and employment. It came to me when just this thought came out of nowhere. It wasn't, I didn't process anything. I wasn't looking into anything. It just came out of nowhere. And I said, oh, wow, if a thought just can't comes to me like that, that might be something I need to pay attention to or at least take into consideration. This wasn't, oh, I'm reading something. Maybe they mean this. This just came to me. So I think that's pretty concerning. And I've always thought about things like this in the past, but I never, now things are, it's a different time right now. I would say to an extent, a lot of people are unfortunately becoming more superficial. So that could be a valid concern if we were to quantify it scientifically. But okay, I don't want to get too deep down that rabbit hole. So again, moving forward, my reasons for not wanting to work, not wanting to be a part of the workforce. Again, there's one main reason, and it's pretty much the only rationale here that I really kind of need. But there's two supporting, like this is the main one. This is kind of encompasses everything, but there's two supporting reasons that I do want to share, and that is perception. Now, just to put this out there, this is something where we may agree to disagree. Some people may not see this, some people may see this, so that's kind of where this conversation can end right now. If people don't see it, then they don't see it, then that's a different conversation. I have other videos about that. We can have a personal conversation about that, but short men are treated in a certain way. Now, if you do see that, or if you at least kind of can consider that possibility or that reality, then this is this I feel is the main reason, because one is we can talk about, and actually let me stick to my notes here. So I share a lot of personal anecdotes. You can check out my YouTube videos where I can share a whole bunch of stories. However, I just share a couple of more stories that will definitely grab people's attention. That are more interesting, not more interesting, but more shocking or more absurd. So I share a lot of those stories. But definitely there's a lot of stuff in between videos that I do go through. So those are my personal anecdotes. And again, I've come to this conclusion by deduction, meaning would this person treat me this way versus another man? However, one thing that I would want people, an experiment that I would want people to see in this video, and again, hiring managers, agencies, etc., or just people just interested in watching this video, excuse me, is look at videos on the Bagel Boss. If anyone remembers, there's a whole situation with the Bagel Boss where they had an argument. It was a short man that had an argument with these associates, these workers at this place, at this bagel place, and then these customers come in and they get into a fight. Now, I don't want to get into my analysis of this because I feel like what happened here was really, really unfortunate, but also there's a lot of I don't think that the Bagel Boss was in the wrong. There's only a few things that I would criticize. However, what I do want people to look at is look at the comments section. If you look at the comments section, what you'll notice, and specifically look at how many views, because there's a whole bunch of videos like this, people who mirrored this video. So you'll probably see a few, so you can have a good sample size to work with. So look at the views, right? It might be in the tens of thousands, maybe even the hundreds of thousands, right? Now, look at the thumbs up, thumbs down, but more importantly, look at the comment section. What I've noticed, and this was very shocking to me and quite disturbing, what I noticed was that virtually everyone had the same exact response. And it really seems strange to me, where everyone's basically saying the exact same thing, is sharing the exact same sentiment, but it's far and in between that you'll find someone that has a differing opinion. And then when you see that differing opinion, after scrolling, and then see how many comments are there also, might be thousands. After you see, especially if there are thousands, if you see that one differing opinion, how are people responding to that, or are they responding at all? So I think that shows you a disproportionate response to not only that video, but how people look at short men. This is real imbalance in society in general as a whole that I'm really alluding to. So let me see what else I have here. I have a video titled Parents, Height, and Opportunity, where there's scientific studies and theories out there that a lot of parents may be concerned if their child is short, that they may have less opportunities as they grow, as they get older. Now, in this video, what I was sharing was that I actually transcended those things, those limitations, but unfortunately, I didn't have the support system to help me maintain the level of success that I reached. So it's not that it's impossible, but it's a little more difficult to maintain because one is short. Let's see. And again, one thing that I do want to point out is uh, you have popular figures who may talk down or may belittle, insult short men. I've had people say, and I don't want to say their names online. Excuse me. I don't want to say, yeah, I don't want to say their names on this video online right now for the purposes of this video. But I've heard people talking in jest, I guess, say we need to round up these short people, these short men. So when you hear things like that, that's dangerous. That's a threat. You know. So I'm going to leave that there. Let's see what else. It's socially, and again, this is all about perception. So I think it's implied already that uh, this not only has to do with the actual interview process, but let's just say we pass the interview process. Then it's getting the job. Then what people have to deal with? Well, it's socially acceptable to belittle short men. So imagine what someone will have to go through at the job. Now, the thing with me is I've always been a star. I've always been a top performer everywhere I go. And this, I feel, has caused issues because this has been a threat to some of my coworkers, my partners, and even superiors. So you may have some people who feel like if they have a certain perception, they may say, well, who's this little guy? Because they will look at me as inferior. Who's this little guy who thinks they know everything or what have you? And it's always a thing of assessing oneself, where it's, am I coming off a certain way? Am I being getting ahead of myself? Am I being too my being a little overconfident? But no, it's not that. It's just being a top performer, excelling, and standing out. That's what I've seen has been a real problem. Let me see. And the thing is, again, with someone like me, who I feel is an exceptional individual, everywhere I go, I'm always a top performer, is I can understand where I may not get a high level position, but I never seem to get a reasonable position. So let me give an example. There is, and I will have to rebut that I did at one point get a reasonable position after a fight that was won, and then I was severely disrespected in this position. But that's another story. Let's make an example here. Let's say let's just use customer service as a simple example. It's where I don't think as a short man I will find myself in a managerial position, let alone being assistant manager, let alone maybe even becoming a lead. So you see where this becomes a thing of you're expending all this energy and you're not being appreciated, you're being devalued. It's a waste of time. And uh, it's kind of disrespectful. But that's what it is. And again, people basically just face stonewalling. That's pretty much what it is. At the end of the day, no one really is going to budge on something like this. So that's kind of it. So let's see what else. I do have a video that I just made called One Chip Challenge. So I would encourage people to watch that video, where I just give an illustration of how people perceive this. This was something that just happened to me actually earlier today, where it was someone who I've been around for years, but even after being with them for so long, they still looked at me as inferior. So this is a thing where even if one is around and one is being open, extending themselves, people's perceptions won't change, and there's not much you can do with that. Okay, so now moving on. And again, that was, again, the main reason. It was perception. As many people will say, as the old saying goes, perception is reality. So I think I rest my case with that one. And again, I see myself as an exceptional person. Maybe I can use my talents elsewhere or in another manner. The second thing is workplace harassment. Now, this is something that unfortunately happens, but I've dealt with it pretty severely. And again, with uh, Heightism, it definitely becomes a handicap. So I definitely dealt with being treated unfairly, people not wanting to work with me, people not uh, uh, meeting their end, or I would have to pick up the slack. People being disrespectful, just outright yelling at me. People not wanting to sit next to me at lunch. People uh, doing a lot of suggestive things. Like, let's say I will come in the room and people would just like. I had instance where someone just let go of this box just to make this loud noise to try to scare me. So, just weird things like that. There's that. You brush that off, you document if you need to. And I have a pretty strong spirit, so that's not a big deal. But things can escalate. I've been unjustly terminated and several times. Uh, let's see. But where this really can be harmful is, or where this can really start to become something of concern is, I've had workplace harassment escalate to the point of being dangerous. I've had, this happened at one of my more recent jobs. I've had gang members try to come to uh, beat me up or do whatever. Um, I've had people yelling at me, uh, just getting really just belligerent with me, calling me all kinds of names in front of customers and what have you. And again, me being respectful. And uh, and then another thing was, excuse me, I wanted to interject, but I don't want to digress too much. I've had also instances where people wanted to come back just to see me, where maybe I had to call them out on something or just bring their attention to something, but then they felt like maybe because they felt a little more comfortable because of the size difference, they would just come back just to come and see me. And there was a point where there was a person who, one of my more recent jobs, I was working at this store, and there was a customer who used to always come by, and him and I became friends. He came by and says, "There was this guy here just looking for you." And I'm like, "Wow, that was like the fifth time this week." So it's again how comfortable people feel with these kind of situations, when because of height, right? Let me see, and a lot of this is really just as a result of standing one's ground. But as I said, there's I have a strong spirit, but people may have a certain perception. So again, workplace harassment is, there's little things that go on, and politics. That's one thing. You just document those things. You try to be strategic. You try to build alliances. That's that. But I've had things that escalate beyond the point of politics, and that's where, to me, I said, you know what, I don't want to deal with this again, because you know what, and especially with, again, someone like myself, that I think I'm an exceptional person. Not just saying that I'm special just to say it, but just in things I've achieved and what I can't, my potential. Stress equals death. So I don't really want to deal with a lot of this stuff. Yes, that specific, some of my more recent situations were pretty intense, but it's also the collective of stuff that I've been through for some time. And again, unjustly terminated a few times, and I'm going to get to that in a moment. Let me see. I just put this. I'm gonna give a little bit of TMI here, but just to give some perspective, and I don't really like doing this, and I have my hand blocking this, so I didn't see this side note that I made for myself. So let me just put this out there before I get to my last point. I'm approaching 40. I'm 5'2". I'm undomiciled. I went to New York University. Now, when I say that, I don't mean to say that just in the context of name dropping. I mean that in the sense of I was accepted in that community. I knew everyone who mattered, at least in my field of study. And as far as field of study, I studied music technology. Now, we may have the discussion of whether that was a real major or not. However, what I was saying for me is I actually showed promise in that field. So we're not going to get into the conversation of universities, college, and things like that. But as far as that field, I did show a lot of promise. I ended up working with a few A-list celebrities. But again, as I was saying before, things didn't pan out, or I wasn't able to maintain the success that I had because I didn't understand the world that I had stepped into. So I was making a lot of mistakes, a lot of faux pas. And again, for someone who's short, people are probably going to be a little less forgiving. They're probably waiting for you to fall because they probably see, wow, this guy's like a shooting star, but then they're waiting for you to fall. And then there's not going to be many people that are going to want to help you out. And then, let's see. Another side note that I want to make before I get to my last point, just so since I'm already, started making these, going into side notes, I did my more recent jobs because now we're in this situation where we have unemployment benefits. The extensions look like they aren't going to be happening. So I'm in a pretty uncertain situation right now. Now, I'm not worried. I'm not that nervous, but at the same time, it's something where there's how I feel about a situation and the reality of it, and it's just trying to find that, you know, just trying to find not putting so much stress, but and then keeping my focus on the situation. I did apply for some jobs. All I have to say, I did apply for some jobs. One was actually a friend from New York University had sent me a link. This was maybe earlier this year, if not late last year, to a major streaming service. I don't want to put their names out there because I don't want to, again, imply anything. So it was a major music streaming service. I'll say that much. Didn't get an interview. And again, I think if a friend says, "Hey," and they reached out to me out of nowhere, I think if they feel like, "Hey, you might have a shot here," I think that might say something. But again, there may be what the company wants to do, and one has to respect that. Then there was the audio editing position, and then also this last position that I applied for about 2 weeks ago was customer service based, and I updated my resume, and I worked hard on it. It was more of I let it go for a while, and I looked at my resume. I said, "Oh, no, I can make this better," as always. And I really wanted to. I didn't want to say I put too much into it, but I thought I had a good resume. That's all I have to say. I thought I had a good resume. Yeah, I changed it up, and uh, yeah, I updated it, and I thought it was really good. And it was just kind of strange I didn't get called in for an interview, what have you. So that's that. And then there's also the plight of the millennials. So, we have that going on where, along with all those factors, my personal situation, there's with the millennials where, we may not get the best jobs. That's that. I understand that part, but it's also, I can't help to feel what I feel. Now, I can find the middle ground, but I can't help to feel what I feel. I'm pretty hot here, so you may see me sweating here, so just bear with me. Let me at least do this. Again, it's pretty late, and I'm in this room, which is pretty hot. It's now approaching 10:30. It's 10:20 exactly, actually. There's just, again, one last point, and then that's it. And thanks for listening if you're still here. Okay, so, and yes, I would say as a footnote, before I get to my last point, as a footnote, yes, Heightism has made me self-conscious, but as was sharing in the One Chip Challenge video, I find that middle ground where, yes, if I feel cautious about something, even to the point of being self-conscious about something, I at least have the wherewithal to say, I'm feeling this. Let me sit down, let me process this for a moment. And if there's a situation that's happening, let me create some space, some distance, respectfully, where the person sees that I'm still there, I'm still available, but I'm feeling a certain way. And, I maintain neutrality. I maintain my composure so that there's nothing being interpreted. There's no kind of, there's nothing could be misinterpreted, anything like that. But again, creating my space because I may be uncomfortable, or it's just I'm being cautious. So yes, there is that. But again, I have the ability to separate that where I can see something and say, well, I feel this way about this, but I'm a good fit. I'm a perfect fit, is actually. So, well, just send it and let it go. The last thing is lack of opportunities. Um, Now, this is despite the pandemic that we're dealing with. There's a change in the job market, so we're not going to get into that, but that is a fact. That is a reality. Now, I will say something in regards to the last point that I brought up: workplace harassment. My Since I'm already saying it, might as well go ahead and say it, and it's documented. My last employer let me go on the account of he said, she said. Basically, someone, and I won't say the person's identity, but someone had reported me or made a complaint to me as a coworker to our district manager. Actually, the the district manager didn't even review anything. Everything that they claimed on the termination, uh, the whole report was totally false. I mean, the simplest thing, just to give one illustration or one example, was they one thing, and again, this is all documented. Uh, Management had wrote that I had, and I'm not going to get into this right now, but I had stepped away from my post, and that hours had elapsed. And there were customers waiting, there were people waiting to be serviced, and people were complaining. But in reality, I was at my post the entire time. And only one look at the camera, just one look, would see that, if anything, I actually was in my post. In this situation, I needed to lock up uh, the place. I needed to lock up the store, and this is something that they just wanted to get me on something. That's my opinion. But the way it was written on the report, it was I locked up the place and then left for hours. People were complaining, but in reality, what happened was, and they lost money, they lost revenue. I'm so responsible, X, Y, and Z. But what happened in reality was, I locked the door. I went to and this is all visible from the camera. Locked the door, went back to the register because you have to go around the register and this whole aisle and everything just to get to the door, which is basically right in front of you, just like 5-10 feet away from you. But you got to go again around this whole thing. Locked the door, came back to the register, was there for about 2 minutes, then went right back to the door and unlocked the door. And I'm able to see everything that's going on, and the camera could see everything. So that's the stuff I was dealing with. And this was right after the WHO had announced that we were in a pandemic, when it was officially labeled a pandemic, which is let go. So I'll put that out there. Um, Lack of opportunities. I virtually applied to, because of situations like this, working in several different places, many different places. I'm living here in New York, and I know this is getting pretty long. Thank you for listening again, if you're still here. I've worked in so many places, there's virtually nowhere for me to work anymore. I've had two instances where I applied to the same job in two different occasions, the same job, and ran into the same hiring manager. In one situation, I feel like the hiring manager was actually messing with me. They saw me and they just wanted to. I don't even know what happened in that situation, but when I came there for the interview, this was around here in Columbus Circle. No, it's on the east side. So, what's that, like 59th Street, around this area on the east side? I come there and the guy's just like, he's not paying attention to me. He's just kind of like being blasé about everything, and it's like, did you just want to come in and see me just because, I don't know, maybe some kind of weird interest they may have, but I don't know, maybe just to see me again, just because I'm needing a job, maybe I'm at a low point or something. I don't know, it was just weird. So that was that. But again, seeing the same people, and then now people can easily say, well, okay, Ted, just go for anything, just do anything. But here's the thing, it, it it's not. I may not be a fit for everything. And yeah, we can actually include height into that, because that means I can't be a security guard. I can't be a doorman. There's probably certain, like construction, you can probably do that, but they prefer taller men, and I have no problem with that. So there's a few professions that I can't get in that I'm already out of the runnings for. So height does have a legitimate part in what I can apply to. I have no issues with that because I have my own field of expertise and my own talents and skills, experience, et cetera, et cetera. But again, there's certain things where it's just a certain personality is a better fit for a certain situation or certain position. Something like a truck driver. I feel like you could say, yeah, I can get on a truck if I had to do it, and I'm using that as a random example, but I feel like it takes a certain, and I might be getting too existential about this, but I think some people know what I'm talking about. It takes a certain personality to do that, to have that have that mindset to go on these long trips. And then also, that's another thing with height is actually something that it's a factor where you have to pick up all these things. I'm pretty strong, but you have to pick up all these things, move things up and down. And then there's also building certain relationships, the type of people you'll be encountering, having a disposition for the type of people you'll be encountering in that field. So that takes a certain personality. That's my opinion on that. And sometimes it's just maybe my experience, the learning curve will be an issue. So I don't think anyone could just jump into any position just like that, just cold turkey per se. And I'm going to end with this one last point, which is, as I said, I'm approaching 40. So I want just to put some food for thought out there. For 20 years, I've been dealing with these hectic situations where I've been working in different places. I've been let go unfairly, unjustly, going to another situation, repeating that same cycle again. And some people may look at this and say, maybe it's you. Well, okay, this is my counter though. This is how I see it. After 20 years, either I'm really stupid and haven't learned anything, or there's something else going on. Again, the three reasons, and the main one being perception, which I think is really, there was really nothing else that needed to be said after that because perception is reality. Workplace harassment, escalating to points past politics, and then lack of opportunities. Just, yes, the change in environment, that's one thing, but then there's also, with the change in environment, there's having to learn new skills and trades. That's not a problem, but then there's also post-COVID, so then that brings an additional layer of change that the world is facing right now. It's not just, I want to get into a new field, get into a new world, get into a new kind of situation. It's the world has changed. So on top of that, I have to take that into account. But all that to say is, I've worked in so many places. It looks great on the resume. And if you see my resume, I worked with some big brands, some popular companies, and enough that it will make me stand out in a resume. But then on the flip side, it's where I've worked pretty much everywhere you can work at. So, you have to wait to get a new job, and then you have to do the training all over again. It's a lot. So that's that. And I'll end it with this final note is I'd rather be doing this. I'd rather be doing YouTube. Now, I started a year ago. It didn't take off. Who knows? Maybe I need a little more time. Now I'm figuring this out all on my own. Just using my intuition, just my reason, and just kind of processing things on my own, figuring things out on my own. But it didn't really take off. I have a couple of videos that got people's attention, and maybe that's just where it stands. Sometimes it does bother me where I see people who are just like, I feel like I have more to offer, respectfully, than these people do, where I can get more views and get a little more of a following, maybe leverage the situation for something else. but maybe that's not my place. Maybe I'm supposed to be just a niche, and that's fine. Um, yeah, definitely, I want more money, more everything. But at the same time, it's well, if people are appreciating what I'm doing, just in this little circle, then I'm fine with that. I can understand where it's like it's probably what I'm sharing might be a little too heavy. So respectfully, so maybe it's only for just a certain group of people. Might as well just focus on that group of people, or maybe it's just for the interest of this group of people. Focus on them, and then cultivate that, and just leave it at that. So that's that. So I didn't get into, I didn't become PewDiePie or anything like that. But unfortunately, however, I'd rather be doing something like this. And there's a lot of books that I want to read. A lot of things. I have so many books that I haven't read. So many really interesting things that I'd like to read, um, report on, have discussions on. A lot of places that I would like to travel. Maybe. I mean, that's COVID. That's a whole different situation. But a lot of things I want to share. A lot of things I want to talk about. Commentary. I'm into the arts, movies, music. I like to share my thoughts on that, popular culture, really focus on that. But I can't because just life, that's one thing. So I only have time for certain things, and that's fine. But if I knew that I could just focus on one thing, that I could do that. And more than anything is uh, I really would like to make this a more intellectual thing that I do. But again, that's dependent on the people where maybe this will I will get a whole bunch of subscribers and make a lot, make some money, or maybe it just might be a small thing, like a small community. But I'll still like the time to do it. Where now, where uh, people are tossing this idea of universal basic income, I'm totally with that. Again, like I said, approaching 40, undomiciled, I don't really have any issues with that. For someone like me who went to top tier university, that being in that kind of situation, who knows where I may end up. We'll get to, of course, that bridge when we get there. But outside of that, it becomes something where I look at it differently, where it's okay. Well, that's just one less bill. You know, I'll make do, and I'm a pretty strong guy. I'll make do, but it's all about getting to work, and I'm here right now shooting a video. That's what's important to me. As long as I'm fine, I'm healthy. That's what I said. That's what matters to me. And then I have other ventures that I want to do. A lot of creative ventures that I want to do, hobbies, interests, volunteering, stuff like that. So I would actually like to do that. That's why I see myself a little more best suited for. But I got to work and make money. So it becomes a thing. Let me actually share one more thing. I know this video is super long. And again, thank you for listening if you're still here. And I'm going to definitely wrap this up with this. This is an article, again, now talking about Heightism and the workforce. This is an article that I just pulled up. I was trying to look into something else, and I won't get into that. I won't digress anymore or any further. However, this is something I've seen from Forbes. This is titled "Short Men and Overweight Women," which we're not going to get into that topic right now. May not go as far in life. This was from March 9th, 2016. So this is the article. I'll put the link in the description, and I'll read just briefly what this has to say. Because again, this is something when it comes to the workforce, people are not really talking about this, and this is me talking about my experience where I've had enough. You know what I'm saying? Especially again, I have to emphasize someone like me who's achieved so much and I have a lot of potential is being wasted working, doing customer service or okay, yeah, maybe I'm editing some books, but I'm editing somebody else's stuff. So that's kind of where I'm at, respectfully. Okay, so it says, and again, I'm just going to read this briefly, and I'm going to wrap it up with this. It would be nice if looks didn't matter when applying for jobs or chasing other life opportunities, but apparently and unfortunately they do. And I'm only going to read just again a couple, just a paragraph or two. A new study in the journal, the BMJ. I think the person who wrote this is based in London. This week finds that shorter men and heavier women have fewer quote-unquote life chances than their taller and thinner counterparts, which includes education, job status, and salary. And again, as I was talking about in my video, parents, height, and opportunity, I personally transcended them, but I couldn't maintain them once I got to a certain level. Uh, what the study doesn't do is go into why, emphasis why, this would be the case, but there are some possibilities, which include factors coming from both the individual and those around him or her. So shifting the phenomenon or dissolving it may really be a two-way street. Now, the way I interpret that is that they're saying maybe you have a certain kind of attitude, possibly, like have a certain kind of approach to life, but it could also be leveraging. So there's a couple ways that could be interpreted. All right. Okay, it says the new study used data from nearly 120,000 British people between the ages of 40 and 70. All were white, which removes the elements of race and ethnicity. Again, link in the description. The researchers used genetic information to determine people's heights and weights, which removes the elements of self-report and other confounding factors, along with actual data from the participants. And they tracked the participants' education levels, jobs, and incomes. Finally, they used a test called the Townsend Deprivation Index, which is a measure to determine people's socioeconomic status. One last paragraph. And hopefully my emphasis is not annoying some people. I just have a dramatic way of reading. It turned out that shorter men and heavier women had fewer life opportunities overall than their respectively taller and thinner counterparts. Height in men was linked to less education, lower job status, and lower income. In fact, and again, like I said, once again, I transcended this, and I was fortunate, but couldn't maintain. In fact, the team, so I basically was in the same level as anyone else, as an average person. In fact, the team calculate that if a man's genetics set him up to be 3 inches shorter, maybe like my height, he'll make 1,500 pounds, about $2,100 per year less than his taller counterpart. Now I'm going to interject right here. This is where I say stress equals death, because respectfully so, if me and someone else is working the same job and I'm doing more work, or they're getting paid more and we're doing the same amount of work, then that's unhealthy. That's a hazard. That's a health risk. I continue. And for women, being overweight was linked to lower income and to lower SES, and I think that means socioeconomic status. A woman who is a stone, the equivalent of 14 pounds, heavier, will also make about $2,100 less, the same as the short man, less per year than her thinner counterpart. Again, link in the description. What was I going to say about that? I had a point that I wanted to bring up, and I just forgot it. I think I'm going to just stop right there, and it's going to bug me. Let me see if I remember. Oh, I forgot. Sorry. I think that means I'm going to wrap up. I really did have another point. I'm trying to remember, and I'm just 10 minutes away from an hour. I don't remember. Yeah, this video's been pretty long, and it's a 11:15 right now. I'm so sorry. If it comes to me, I'll add it to this video. I'll edit it, but I don't really remember it. But in essence, this is basically a thing where I don't want to make this, I just want this to be something that we just, study, right? I don't want anybody to be a victim or anything, but if your skills can be used somewhere else, maybe that's a better thing to do. Because going into these situations where people have unconscious biases, that can be problematic. That can be a serious issue. And again, you have that plus on top of getting paid less. So, yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that. That's bugging me out. I knew what I was gonna say while I was reading, but I was so caught up in um, just the performance of it all. Anyway, that's it for right now. Again, link in the description for that article. Forbes magazine. Right? Yep, Forbes magazine, 2016. And yeah, this is something that is a serious issue. I definitely don't condone a victim mentality, but it's something to address to kind of figure out a middle ground with everything. That's all for now. Thanks for listening. Enjoy the rest of your day.